This is a document that I created called Home Education and Getting Started. So everything on this plan that we're going to talk about is in this agenda. So what does it look like for the state in compliance with the state? Um, Transitioning and deschooling, what that looks like, the purpose of you when it comes to you as a parent, knowing your why, and giving you that parental support, and then also knowing not knowing, but what homeschooling in action actually looks like. So let's begin right here with state compliance. And I have various links on this document. So you can actually click on these links and it will take you directly to those resources. So everything that I'm talking about today, you have those tangibly. So let's begin with state compliance. The North Carolina Department of Association or Administration, I can't remember that last A um, acronym, but the NCDOA is actually where you go, who you go to or go through to be in compliance or to establish your homeschool. So there's a actual site right here called that you can click on, Homeschools NCDOA, where you can actually find out or actually begin your process. So here are the basic requirements and recommendations that you would need to know before you even begin or start your homeschool or begin to be certified through the state. So first things first, when it comes to your requirements, one of the things you have to do is or be is to be a resident of North Carolina. And that's kind of very forward. But that's the number one. You have to also have a high school diploma or something equivalent and something that shows they will ask for whenever you go to actually register, they will ask for a picture copy or some type of submission to show that you have that document. Um, if you have a degree, just a picture of your degree. I do believe they did ask for mine. So have to have a high school diploma or equivalent. You will also need for to homeschool in North Carolina, you have to keep a record of your child's attendance. So every day that you homeschool, there is a actual document. When you click this document, it's a Microsoft document that actually you can check off the days that you actually homeschool. And this form is so very straightforward. You put the school term, what year, the academic year that you're schooling, your county school name, student's first, last, and middle name. And then below here, during this checklist, so if I do school on July 1st, I would check off July 1st, second, third, fourth, fifth. And say there's a weekend, I'm going to exit off of that. So um, you just X off the days that you don't have school. So with that being said, you just need to keep record of that attendant to comply with the state. Also, you will need to keep record of their immunizations, your child's immunizations. So you can there's actually many doctors now have telehealth portals like my chart or my atrium. You can go on those charts and there's actually a place where you can actually print off your child's immunization records, or you can just get those from the child's doctor and go in and get it from the medical records, or you can actually go to the courthouse and get those records. So just print off a copy of that, keep it. And then also for North Carolina, one of the other standards is to keep record of your lesson plans. So everything that you're going to be doing for the day, keep a record of that on some type of calendar or so. Keep up with the students' work. Also, any work that they do, keep that. And you're supposed to keep that indefinitely because you never know when you're going to have to go back and reference that information in their latter years. Keep that indefinitely. The other thing in North Carolina, you have to operate your homeschool for at least 9 calendar months in the year. Now, that sounds like a lot because 9 months, if we go off a 30-day average, is around 270 days that you would need to be operating your homeschool. But this number also includes your holidays and vacations. And the beautiful thing about homeschooling is that you get to make that choice and how you want your school to flow, the calendar flow, the dates you want to move or not move. So 270 days sounds like a lot, but when you take out holidays and vacations, it really, it diminishes really fast. So according to the Union County Public School System, which is what the system my son had come out of, those schools operate on an average of 175 days. Now, so that's better than 270. But also, most curriculums, or whenever you get ready to start finding what curriculum or what you want your child to learn, those curriculums usually operate on a 180-day schedule. So it's just a 5-day difference. But either way, you're still in compliance with the state if you're operating or you stretch those 175 to 180 days across 9 months, um, and you're still good. You're okay. Keep that attendance record whenever you do those days, and you should be fine. Uh-oh. Let me go back down. Okay. And then also, the other requirement you would need to have is to have a nationally standardized achievement test completed each year. Okay. So, what that um, nationally standardized achievement test is just a test that you will have to have your child to take. And this test does not count against them. This test is not something that's going to measure you or your child's abilities to say that they're where here, there, or other. The importance of taking this test is so that just in case you want your child to go back into the school system, they will utilize those test records to consider the grade placement of your child if they want to put them back in on their right academic level or lower or higher. Most times it is age specific, but also academic specific. So they use this test for that reason. So there's an actual link here called Homeschool Nationally Standardized Testing Requirements. You can actually click that link and get more information if you need it or when you need it. You only take this test one time a year, and you kind of want to do it around the time of the last month or 2 months or towards the end of your child's academic year or the end of those 175 to 180 days. There is a test that my son does take every year, and it's called the CAT test, CAT test. And you actually can buy, I included this link here. You can actually buy um, go to this site called Christian Liberty Press. And the test is only $30, and then you can take a $5 practice test. It is online, so that makes it much more convenient, easier, and it's not so time strenuous. So my son really thrives off of that test, or not thrives off the test, but he really, I believe he functions better and functions versus going into an actual location and taking a test for so many hours. So there's that resource there when and if you need it. So also being we're still going through state compliance, I wanted to click this link here to North Carolina Homeschools. NCDOA, the site that you go to actually get certified or registered as a homeschool. And as you click below, here are those requirements. The same requirements that I talked about is here. And there's also this resource called a homeschool guidebook. They have their own print friendly way of going through the things that I just said and to more detail of what it looks like to homeschool in the state of North Carolina. So there's an excellent resource there. And I want to go to this little link here, or to tell you about this little link here, which says filing intent to operate a homeschool. And I'm going to go back to my document before we talk about that because I don't want to get ahead of myself. But filing a notice of intent, or the state calls it an NOI, a notice of intent, that same link is actually right here, notice of intent. You can actually click that link and it's going to go to the same place that I just showed you. But that's a formal document that notifies your intent to withdraw your child from their public school and notify the state of your intent to homeschool or provide an alternative education for your child. So it's just simply a document um, that you also use to register with the state to let the state know and your child's school know that you are technically withdrawing your child from the school system or the public school system or whatever school they are in, and you are intending to homeschool or provide an alternative education for your child. The process is so simple and easy. There is a video that they're going to have you to watch and walk through before you even file the notice of intent. So it's very easy to do. If your requirements and recommendations check off just fine, then you are ready to actually start your NOI. But this is the only thing I will say about an NOI. There are dates or times that works best. Okay. So there are anytime you file a new notice of intent or you're establishing a new homeschool, they only accept those applications or registries Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. They are a 7 to 3 business. And they cannot be submitted. NOIs cannot be submitted between the months of May to June. So it's August and you are in the academic window. You should be good to file your NOI anytime until May of 2026. So you got a lot of time to file that when you're ready. And also, once you file your NOI and you register, looking at the video, register, establish your homeschool, you will receive a formal letter from the NCDPE. They are the North Carolina Department of Public Education. You will receive a letter, and that's usually by email. If you give an email when you register your NOI, they will send it by email approving that you are a registered homeschool. And they will also give you a registered school ID number. It is good to, whenever you get that email, to go ahead and just print that form off that'll be attached to the bottom of that email and keep that for your records along with your attendance and immunizations. Keep that in a binder, I would recommend, or file folder, just so that you will have that for reference at any time. And you only need to submit an NOI once. You don't have to go and submit it again. And you only need to submit it when you know that you are ready to start homeschooling. Okay, so I believe they give you a little message or so before you actually begin registering with the NOI, reiterating the emphasis that you only need to file this if you know that you're ready to begin homeschooling promptly. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then there again, here is the homeschool guidebook. Also on that link that I had just showed you, the handbook, 2013, that actually gives you the North Carolina standards into detail. You can actually print out that handbook because it is a PDF, or you can just have it, or there are some ways that you can buy the handbook. Me, as a homeschooling mom of 3 years, I have not ever had to print off the handbook, um, but I had to reference it at the beginning of my first year because I didn't really know which direction on what to teach my child. And page 18 of that handbook, which I'm going to go to this link now. Page 18 of the handbook gives a very good qualified recommendation as to what subjects your child should be learning by their grades. So grades 1 through 6, the basic subjects that they recommend for your child to receive is language arts, math, science, history, social studies, and then health, safety, and PE. As your child gets older, it's the same subjects with the inclusion of more detailed science and social studies. Those subjects, many unit studies begin to change. Okay, so that's page 18, or my document says 20. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move on to transition and deschooling. And I'm going to make sure I keep up with my notes. Okay. Transition and deschooling. This is something that I wanted to insert into this document because I do believe I want to set, I mean, I hope to set you up as far as when it comes to homeschooling. Um, on a positive note and not being oblivious to the things surrounding homeschool, and to give you a proactive measure, something to use, a tool that's going to help you when you get started. Um, I will say that there is a point of transition where your child could experience something um, when transitioning from a public school system setting to just straight or homeschooling. So the term for that is called deschooling. And there is a link here where you can actually find more information. Deschooling starting um, out right at home. So, to give you a best foot forward, deschooling is just the adjustment period that a child goes through when they're leaving school, they're beginning homeschooling, and the to bully. To fully benefit from homeschooling, a child, it says, has to let go of the private or public school culture as the norm. And this is called deschooling. It's the transitional period when a child goes from the public school system, culture, norm, or private school to homeschooling, and there is a shift. And it is a crucial part of beginning homeschooling after a period of time of being so long in a classroom setting. So depending on what age you started, my son started second, left second grade. So he had gotten, well, this is going to sound funny, but he had gotten kindergarten, first grade, second grade. So he had been in the school culture norm for 4 years. So he had adapted to the um, the normal school schedule. He had adapted to the way teachers would do things, and he had adapted to being around peers. So there was this is just my personal example. At homeschool, we have there was a indifference with homeschooling because um, school schedules didn't work like home schedule, and the way the teacher taught is not the way that mom would teach. And so there was some differences and variances that happened. And one of the things that would happen is my son would often repeat, moments of being at school in a formal way of not grief but missing the setting and not being familiar with the transition. So that was a thing. But at homeschool, we do have a schedule, but that schedule, it ran differently from the way school ran. And there's no school bells, there's no time blocks, there's no recess, in a quote unquote like they would have, or lunch schedules in the same times and orders. So that was different. I taught differently from the way his teacher would teach. And this took time for him to adjust and for me to not also take things so personal when he was adjusting. Because when he would bring those things up, um, of course, I would see the change for him. And I didn't know exactly as well how to respond to that. But what mattered to him, what I did realize in that moment, and I encourage you as well, is to listen to him and hear him out, and also just recall the things that mattered to him. I really took that time to focus in exactly what he did like, because in those moments he did express the things that his preferences, he expressed his interests, things that appealed to him more. I would take those nuggets and actually use them to help me adjust his learning style. and his interest and to keep him engaged in school. And also I had to listen to those things and also be able to extend grace and be patient with him and myself because he was transitioning. I was also transitioning because I never done that before. And when I done that, when I adjusted, I was flexible about my our homeschool schedule and I left room for grace and it all worked out. And things are a lot better. And I would say that transition for us took those first 2 years. It took his all of his third grade year, all of his fourth grade year. I mean, not all of his fourth grade year, the beginning couple of months of his fourth grade year. And by the time he found that independence and he was more secure on what he was doing, and he began to adjust, it was a lot better. We had a better flow. So transition and deschooling is a thing. And I will also say adjusting as a parent is important. It's good to learn the school's system. Um, your child. It's important to learn your child, and it's important to learn your why. What's going on in the system or what's going on with public education, what's going on with private education, whatever form of schooling that your child did have, what's going on is important because this is the environment that your child was shaped in. And when you know exactly what's happening, you have a better solid foundation for developing why you're even deciding to move differently in your child's life and education in the first place. This is an example, and I'm not going to give a whole lot of examples. You can definitely use this at your own leisure. But one of the things, for example, that was happening in the school system is, for one, your children are, or our children are in school for an average of 6 to 7 hours a day. So if you actually calculate that out, because usually you go to school usually from 8 to 2 or sorry, six. I don't know how that works, but but you go to school for about 6 to 7 hours a day. If you calculate that on a 175-day calendar, like we say, we have 175 educational days in the UCPS system. You multiply that out, that's an average of 1,050 to 1,225 hours of influential time that your child has away from your parental training. And so the thing about that is who's really shaping who? Your child is apart from you, your child is away from you, your child is not learning from you, they're learning from someone else. They're around something else, they're being invested in somewhere else. And so, outside of the parental voice, what is your child actually really absorbing? And most times, parents aren't technically always allowed to be in a school setting environment during academic hours. So you don't really truthfully know everything that your child is being taught. Now they can send home a syllabus or something regarding the things around. You can go to the PTOs and they can tell you some of the things, but truthfully, how do we really know what agendas or anything that's also being pushed through? And this is why brings me to my next topic, and it is learning your why. What are you doing as far as deciding to homeschool your child? What you are doing as far as deciding to homeschool your child is just as important as knowing why you're homeschooling. Because in knowing your why you're doing, you'll be better equipped to fill in those what if moments that may arise on your homeschool days. And defining what your home system look like is going to be very important to you continuing your homeschool. And there's um a a guy named Body Balcom. He did a actual like lecture, a homeschool lecture for homeschoolers that are in Texas. So he calls the Texas Coalition, and it's called Home Education: Why and How. And I truly recommend that you look at that video. It is a YouTube link, and just take that and look at it at your own leisure. And there are some benefits to looking at this video when it comes to establishing your why. What you're doing is important as why you're doing it. And I want to give an example for why we started homeschooling. My husband has been in the I'm sorry, he has been in the school system for a number of years, Union County. And the thing about some of the things that he saw is that there are some school, it's in the school experiences. In general, there are some things that are being passed through in the teaching styles. There are also some heartbreaking things that the children are experiencing and communicating that not always returns back to the parental. And so those things right there really shed a light on what's actually happening behind the scenes in schools. So, for example, and I will be brief about it, but there is this inclusion ideal that's being pushed in schools, and it is political, but it's also very isolating because it's intentional to bring in this idea that love covers all, the gender binary, that we're not going to use any pronouns, establishing those blurred lines to where we include everything and everybody, even every sexuality, to where when a teacher is teaching, if the student wants to be called a her and it's a he, the teacher is encouraged to go by their preferenced pronoun. And if they do not, then there are repercussions surrounding that. So we were absolutely like, no. And that was for us. So we saw these school experiences, and that's just one example. And we wanted to do something differently. Also, there were teachers that that were opting out. They were leaving, quitting school, taking that the teachers weren't quitting school. They were taking their children out of school. The teachers were taking their children out of school and homeschooling them. And that was significant. And I asking one of the teachers why, and it was because they don't agree with the teaching styles and some of the things and agendas that were also being pushed through in schools. I had some friends who began homeschooling their children, and it was just like, wow, I just found that courage to say I can do this. And also too, we wanted to nurture a biblical worldview for our children. Usually in schools, they are pushing a non-secular or secular humanist ideal. It is a political ideal also, but a secular humanist ideal, which is contrary to the way that we think and believe. And so, one of the first things that was taken out of school was prayer Bible. And we just decided that we want to not create, but to implement a biblical perspective for our children. So, which is more realistic than some of the other agendas that are also being pushed. So, this was our why. And knowing your why is going to definitely set a foundation for you upholding or continuing in the standards to keep your home system going. So that is important. Also, learn your child. Learning your child is very important when you're beginning homeschool because you need to know their learning habits, their learning styles, their strengths, their weaknesses. What are they interested in? What are they not interested in? And just who they are as a person, because this is in homeschooling, you're actually defining home relationships. And when you know this about your child, you have a better chance of reaching them, and building relationship with them. And so when you go to approach, so when you know that, when you go to approach to try to teach your child, you have a more receptive, and yeah, a more receptive environment, a more receptive child that is willing to pour out to you, but also be poured into. And this opens up the communication lines when you know that, and you um, encourage or uplift and support that. And also, when when you're ready to start homeschool, it is good to gather your own personal support as a mom. Who or what you connect with, who or what can you connect to encourage you, or something that you can gain positive support from. So, for example, I am connected to a homeschool group on Facebook, and there's a lot of moms that are starting out, they don't know what to do. So that's a good time for us other moms to kind of come in and lift that mom up. And yeah, so there's I'm connected to a group called Homeschool Moms of Union County. So in my area or district, yeah, we just we support each other. If we don't know what curriculum to use, what's the best curriculum? That's an excellent place or time space to do that. You can also gain support through local co-ops. Co-ops is a term that may pop up very, very often. Um, you can also, and it's just basically partnering with another homeschool family that they may or may not have like belief, but they are set to do the same type of curriculum, or maybe sometimes it's the same subject area, and begin to teach and help one another, to get that accomplished for their child. So if your child is struggling with math, and you find another mom that is great in math, you can co-op or cooperate together to be able to effectively teach your children, and vice versa. You can also gain support from friends and family members. Have someone to talk to in those moments, just any moments, or somebody that you know you can connect to if you have questions about anything. Also, tutoring, of local classes. There is a community called Learning Habitat, or organization called Learning Habitat. They kind of are more on a paid scale, but you can outsource those classes in case there's something that you aren't maybe so gracefully good at teaching. Pre-algebra, calculus, especially as you get in those higher school grades, and there are some things that you're not familiar with. There are tutors that you can hire. There are local classes that your child could take. There's also biblical scripture, that'll be excellent to source or fall back on, or having some type of focal word or phrases that's going to get you throughout the day. And one of my phrases, for examples, is grow through what you go through. So I tend to focus on that phrase in those moments where I'm homeschooling and I just need to be encouraged or gain some positive support and more. And also, there's this excellent resource called the Homeschool Mom. The Homeschool Mom, um, she, sorry, I'm going down and I need to go up. The Homeschool Mom is an excellent resource about any questions, practically any questions that you have about homeschooling. And a lot of these sources that I'm using are linked to this website. So if you have any questions about homeschooling, and in specific in North Carolina, this is an awesome resource to use. Just type in there what you have a question about, and most times you're going to get the answer that you need through there. And also book therapy. There is a book called Homeschool Bravely: How to Squash Doubt, Trust God, and Teach Your Child with Confidence. That was an excellent book. And I really and highly encourage you to read it before starting, if you can, or just reference back. I go to that book and just reference back to it anytime I need to gain strength or be encouraged, or just refocus and remember my why and get back to where I need to be. I do go back to this book very, very often, and I hope to link a picture view of that book as well. And I want to also encourage you before homeschooling about transparency. Each day, and me just being transparent, and what I'm about to say is not to discourage, but hopefully to give you equip you to be better, successful, um, even more than I was. So, um, my personal example, I had some days, I have had hard days that were like tough to get through. And they were tough because, my son, when you don't, for example, when your child don't understand, my son, he didn't, let me go back. So my son, he don't always understand the information. And when the information or the material that he's learning, he can't achieve because he is achievement led, he tends to get very frustrated. And in those frustrating, he always results to he would result to moments of crying and give up. And in those times, I would get frustrated because I was trying to um, discourage that behavior, but encourage communication. And for the lack of better words, there was always this thing that would always pop up, but he wouldn't always result to using his tools in communication. So that became frustrating for us. But um, even though that transparent moments happened, the beautiful thing about that is what I had to realize that each school day is not going to look like the perfect school day. And I think for me, I would have this idea of what school homeschooling looked like. I would see the videos of moms actively working their homeschool, and the kids are all sitting at the table perfectly, and she's teaching them and they're listening and things like that. But I'm a mom of five with two toddlers under two, and that was just bizarre and out of the question for me. So, no, the homeschool every day is not going to look perfect. But every day is a day, what I had to learn something. Whether he learned or I learned, we learned something. And at the end of the day, that is more important to me than what perfection looks like or what a perfect idea of something looks like. And I would say for you, you have to really have to honestly be honest with yourself, and be willing to not give up, but to continue to, as I say, grow through what you go through. Because no, every day will not look perfect, but you will have more better days than you will have, and especially as you get established during that first year, you're transitioning, you're trying to learn, your child is learning, things are changing, and so you have to learn to extend grace to yourself, because truly you two are really continuously learning. Your child is learning. And so you be able to extend that grace and patience with yourself and with your child. And with that being said, you will see the benefit when you stick to it, of that growth in fruition, as time passes. So I just want to encourage you there. And also to encourage you to redefine social health and always have an answer. And when I say social health, the most common concern for homeschoolers is the stigma concerning socialization. So the question is that everybody want to know is, will your children be normal in society? but I always like to answer that question with this question. Well, what's your definition of social health and what's your definition of socialization? Because, and here's the fact, if a child is around or talking to people or a parent or siblings, grandparents, family, people in the community, if they're going to social places or social gatherings, if they're playing sports, then listen, they're socialized. And that's the truth. They are socialized. In fact, if your child has the ability to carry a simple conversation with the person or individual before them, with you or with somebody else, then they are socialized. And so I always have an answer for that because a lot of people want to come and when you say, what school do your child go to? Oh, I'm homeschooling. Oh, well, and there you go. So multi is good to always have an answer for that. And also give that or teach that to your child too, because there is some social isolation that could be put on or be vicariously um, added to them, and really they're just trying to learn. And that's something that I had to teach my children when they were asked that question as well. And also, multi-generational and multicultural experiences are beautiful. So whenever they are my kids, they're not in a normal school setting, they're around their peers all the time. But when you go out here in this work field, you're not going to always be with the same peer age group um, that you work with all the time. It's not going to happen. You're going to always move or talk with people or work with people that are different ages. So having those experiences as a homeschooler is an advanced step up in their socialization, actually. And also talking to various cultural races and multicultural experiences, those are really beautiful. So I love the plus of being a homeschooler because you have this advantage. I do want to talk for a moment about adjusting as it pertains to the child. So these are all things that when it comes to you as a parent. Now I want to talk to adjusting as a child. Offering your child tools to use and teach them how to use them is good when you're starting homeschooling. There are various guides and reference materials that you can use. Sometimes visible posters if you have a kinesthetic or a visual child, having that to see before them when it comes to something encouraging that's going to help them to adjust to homeschooling in general, but also to adjust into a new way of life. Changes happen to us all, but how we deal with it um, is something that I believe is crucial to be taught. Provide leisure. It's going to be a great tool for you as a parent, but also for your child. Having that leisure to kind of debrief and take everything in of the new is good. Also, positive affirmation always be good when it comes to your child, reminding them of their strengths, the things that they do well, clapping for them when they're doing good or they're progressing of some sort, even if it's something small. Encourage, support, and also be there also when the days are hard and in the shortcomings. Affirm them as much as possible. It's going to help them to adjust to homeschooling. Also, the power of communication. Give your child room or space to talk about literally everything. Don't be afraid to discuss the feeling when you see a change in your child, or you see some seclusion, or they're internalizing things. Give them room or space to talk about it. Or if there's the elephant in the room, or they extra moody this day, give the space a room to talk about it. The power of communication is an excellent thing, and when you do it with love and with truth, because let's be honest, sometimes you have to as a parent, you have to give them those hard truths. That is going to help in your adjustment and just overall general flow as a homeschool or during the day. Teaching your child about change and transition is awesome. Change can be harder for some children than others, and change can be hard for us as adults more than others. And so just think about you as a mom, how do you deal with change? What helped you? And be able to communicate that and give them those tools to your child um, during that time of transition, and also as adjusting as a family unit. So, talked about the parent transitioning, talked about the child transitioning, but as a family, the family is transitioning. Because when you're homeschooling, everything pretty much changes as far as what home looks like. So as a family union, I always create a safe space for conversation again. But I also encourage you to watch this movie called the Homeschool Awakening movie. There's this man named Kirk Cameron, and he is actually an advocate for reading materials in the public school system for implementing better reading materials that's not so explicit and what's on the market now in schools. He actually creates positive um, things in school. This movie created a awesome view of what homeschooling looks like across many different spectrums of families, because every home and every family is not the same. And so that is an excellent. I encourage you all as a family to just watch it and just have a family discussion after watching it before you actually go into homeschooling. And this is going to prep you and prep them for what's about to happen or what's about to change in your family. Now I'm going to switch gears and talk about homeschooling in action. And this is the last and final thought, I promise. And I know I've been rambling on, and I'm very sorry about that. Let me move to my next slide. There is a simple day in the life video of this mom homeschooling her daughter. And this is just, I wanted to show this because this is just such a brief way of saying all that I said to really reduce homeschooling down to really it being very simple. And I'm talking about so much information. It sounds like a lot of information, but when you actually go into it, it is very simple and not as complicated or complex, in my thoughts. So this is a video of a mom homeschooling her daughter, and I just encourage you to watch it in your own time. But just to let you know about what homeschool looks like on a day-to-day basis. Um, Location. So your setup, your homeschool setup, your location, where you homeschool literally takes place anywhere. And that's the joy of it. You can take your homeschool on the road, you can take your homeschool at home, or anywhere else. Kirk Cameron in that movie, the Homeschool Awakening movie, he said literally, the world is your classroom. And that's the truth. Um, it's not something that you have to be stuck to a desk like you're at school, at a public school or whatever. It's everywhere. Some families have dedicated learning to something as simple as their kitchen table or room corner or nook. Some of them have de-gutted their home closets. Um, their home. We have a home office and or spare room in our house, and so we took that room and just made it our office slash homeschool room. Others explore out and take their school to a local library. Some of them do homeschool in their home garage or den. Some families have an outdoor shed or a patio sunroom, which would be nice, I think. But also, families actually travel on the road, especially those who are who are who have jobs that require them to travel a lot. I just talked to a mom yesterday. Her husband, he travels on the road for his job, so he has his sons with him. They take their workbooks and they complete their school work on the road. So there are families that travel in their bus or car, and homeschool is like that. There's even homeschoolers who believe in a natural approach. So they take their homeschool and go and travel to different places and be in outdoor natures in the outdoors in nature itself. So there are some families, for example, if they want to talk about the Washington Monument for that week, they actually go to Washington, D.C. and learn and educate their children about in real life what those experiences are. So you can make it and whatever you want to make it. And that's what I love about homeschooling. The possibilities are endless, and the world is definitely your classroom. There are some basic supplies and materials that you may need, and I have linked an ultimate list here of must-have supplies for moms with this is for moms with multiple kids, but it gives a comprehensive list of school supplies that you may ever run into. And I will say, and this is just speaking from wisdom here, for that first year, just keep it simple. Keep it simple. This list isn't extensive, honestly, for your first year. Really, all you would need is a teacher's binder for yourself to keep those records that we talked about from the NCDOA and those the North Carolina state compliance laws that you need. Keep that in the teacher's binder. And I recommend a 3 ring because over time that stuff does collect. Um, so keep sorry, 3 ring, but 3 inch, sorry, 3 inch binder for yourself. But for your kids, starting off with basic paper, pencil, pens, glue sticks, markers, crayons, color pencils, and I don't know if I said notebooks, but notebooks too. So keep it brief. A few books, some learning manipulatives if you have to have them. So like little math cubes or um, uh, different various colors or some bears if your child is in elementary school. Um, that's pretty much it for your basics for school. A whiteboard would be nice for you to work out things in case your child needs to see that visual, but and expo markers and highlighters. That's pretty much the simplest things. So, but there is this list here if you want to go a little bit further, or if you want to actually create a full space in your house. Or room, then definitely you can adapt to something differently. I've seen families actually go into do like your a rolling cart to keep everything in a rolling cart, and that's their school. Some of them have cubbies or book bins. That's their school. It just bookshelf. That's their school. It just all depends on your style and how in depth you want to make it. Also, homeschooling in action, finding your flow in homeschool schedule is also important. I have adapted these resources, several resources, into these markers here, and they are in bold to explain what your finding your flow and homeschool schedule will look like. You can definitely read this on your own time. But just for example, one of the things is flexibility. When you're deciding how you want your homeschool to flow, be flexible. Don't overschedule. Keep things brief. And yeah, don't overdo it. And establish a routine that's going to stick to what works for your family. The more detailed you make it, the more complicated it gets. The more simple and brief you make it, the easier it will be. And the more easier it will be for your child to adjust and stick to it. So yeah, flow. Here's a sample, for example, a sample brief, slow flow schedule that is very it is very broad. So for morning, for example, they have breakfast, chores, and conversation. After that, they begin their math and language arts. After that, they have a break. Then after their break, they come back to history, science, or another subject or elective that they have. After they finish that subject, they go to lunch and some family time. After that, they do some extracurricular activities. So whether that child is in sports or mom got to go run some errands, that's that time to do that. And then afterwards, you come home. Usually this is around evening, and they have their family time, dinner, and they prepare for the next day. That is a excellent flow schedule of what the expectations are to do every day. So don't overdo it. Don't do too much. Keep it brief, and you will be okay. Also, when you're beginning your homeschooling, I want to talk about curriculums. And curriculums is such a big deal for homeschoolers. I don't know why it just goes over their heads. But homeschooling curriculums, um, I think some continue to they overthink it. But I'm gonna tell you, don't overthink it. The homeschool curriculum that you choose truly just depends on your child's learning style and how much time you as a parent have to spend on teaching your child and your budget. So when you pair those three things, your child's learning style, how much time you're willing to spend in teaching, and your budget, you really have a better outlook on the curriculum that you're going to choose. So I gave you this tool here to help you to point you in that direction. So first off, your child's learning style is going to matter because how your child learns is going to really determine what they learn. So there is this handy dandy quiz that you can actually take to see what is your child learning styles. And for example, here they have the a learning style. For example, there's a kinesthetic learner. There's a visual learner. There's a like or tactile hand. A kinesthetic is tactical hands-on learner versus a visual learner. So you might have a child that if they see the information, they got it, they can retain it, they can do it. Or you may have a child that is a kinesthetic learner. They got to do it hands on. They got to touch something. They got to feel it. They got to be hands on in order to retain information and then do it. So your learning style is going to matter on what type of curriculum that you use because some curriculums support one more a learner more than another. So that quiz, excellent to take. Once you know your child's learning style, then it's good to try to learn, okay, well, what type of home teaching style or homeschool style or classroom style do I want to see happen in my homeschool or in my home? So the question then here is just really how much time are you able to teach? Some curriculums are more teacher led, others are more student led. I realized that for me, being a mom of five, um, and being very rigorous in my first year of teaching, I was I was overwhelmed with a teacher-led approach. Me solely being the sole person for teaching them everything they needed to learn in order for them to learn. So yeah, that type of curriculum, it is very intensive, but it's also very beneficial because your child can actually maximize the most out of their learning because they learn from you and they actually get that direct teaching. And so it's not a bad thing, it's just more intensive. But there are also student-led approaches. And what I learned for Isaiah, he was my oldest son. I'm sorry, he was in the he was in coming out of second grade into third grade, and there was a jump in his work that he was not familiar with. There were some things that he was learning in public school that when we started his homeschool curriculum, which was through LifePack, we used a curriculum called LifePack through AOP Publishing that there were some gaps in learning. So there were some learning gaps. There were some things that he was supposed to be operating on for his second grade level that he did not even know. So I had to, before he can even begin his third grade life hack, I had to go back and reiterate some principles from his second grade year so that he can be caught up in order to do his third grade work. And that's where that learning gap, those learning gaps will also play a part in your curriculum choice. And what I did love about Life Pack when he was able to get started is that it was very simple. He had to do a small description, he had to follow a small description of a lesson. And then after that lesson, it would give you an example of how to do it. And then after he would learn the example or repeat the example that he saw, it would then give him some practice work to follow or reiterating that what he had just learned or practiced. So it's a mastery approach, meaning your child is going to repeat the same information over and over again, and it's going to build up to where he would have or he will have mastered that subject or lesson for the day, or yeah, after he finished that unit. So it is a unit study approach, and I like unit studies because basically for you as a parent, um, it kind of it has so many lessons, but if you do it in 180 days, you can mark it on your home calendar, or your attendance chart. I'm going to do days 1 through 6 or 1 through 7, and you can kind of take those lessons, plug them into your calendar, and you know what you're going to do for the day. It's kind of done for you. And so that's what I love about us doing Life Pack. But how much time are you willing to teach is really going to determine what type of curriculum that you choose. So right here, there is a quiz. Sorry, before I get to the quiz, this kind of talks about, sorry, the homeschool mom talks about the different learning styles, homeschooling styles. And there's Charlotte Mason. Everybody want to talk about Charlotte Mason. And then there's Waldorf. There's deschooling styles. There's eclectic styles. You can actually learn about those styles for what you would like to see in your school. So plugging in that, there is a home style quiz that you can actually take right here to also see, okay, what type of style is going to best suit me, and how that is going to affect what type of curriculum I'm going to choose, if this makes sense. So once I know my child's learning style, once I know my homeschool style and how much I'm willing to invest in teaching and invest financially, then I can better off find my curriculum. And here, this is a comprehensive list of curriculums that are really across the board of all the choices that they are. And I advise you not to get overwhelmed by this list, but only use it as a reference point to see which types of curriculums are you more likely or not likely, or just explore, to just explore. There's a PDF version, but there's also this master homeschooling list. And this one right here has links to where you can actually click to those places and it'll show you what they look like. And I always encourage, before you actually want to go in and buy curriculum, to research video reviews. There are a lot, again, because homeschoolers are so crazy about about curriculums. There are so many videos that you can watch of moms actually going through and showing, opening up the book so that you can see what it looks like and what your day may look like. I advise you, once you find a curriculum, just research it on a video review and just see it for yourself. There's also and also an excellent place that you can go through called the Homeschool Room in Matthews, North Carolina. There is a place called the Homeschool Room where you can actually go in and just see and open those books for yourself. And all of that material in there is um, of it's just it's a library of curriculums that moms can go through and just find curriculum on a discounted price that may be more expensive online or whatever. It's just consigned. It's consigned, and most of it is fairly new or barely used. So you can actually go to the homeschool room in Matthews and just open up that stuff. Whatever once you have that list of things that caters to your style and homeschool style, and find that in stores for a cheap price. I also wanted to show you this tool right here. What should my child be learning each year? Um, because sometimes whenever you go to get curriculums, there might be some gaps in the curriculum, and it's one of those things that's kind of just going to happen, because nothing is all. Most times, everything is not all inclusive. And especially when it comes to the North Carolina standards, there is not usually one comprehensive workbook or guide or curriculum that you can buy that everything just comes in. It'd be nice, but it just doesn't work that way, always. So there's a standards. If you don't know, there's North Carolina standards that you can actually go by called the Standard Course of Study of NCDPI. There you can actually see, okay, what should my child be learning in the second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, 12th grade, 11th grade? What does those pathways look like? What concepts should they have gained by this year? You can actually take that and just look at those standards as a guide. Some moms have even used this guide and created their own or developed their own lesson plans off of this guide, and yeah, and just found different cheap or free resources to teach their child, or either let them do the work or worksheets, so that they could be getting that achieving those or mastering those standards. And this approach is only kind of necessary if you don't have the funds or finances to do a curriculum, if you just want to use it as a reference, or it's just something that you just kind of just want to know. And there's this another PDF called Home Learning Year by Year, and it's actually a book. But I found the book online on a PDF, and there are some ads in there that you got to kind of weed through. But there you can also find a more simple view of of some standards that or concepts that your child should be learning. It is not North Carolina standard. It's just a general standard for what your child should be learning by each grade. So that resource is there as well. And then here are some budget friendly resources. Um, I will say a lot of these curriculums are very much expensive. Sorry, wrong line. They are very much expensive. And if you want to avoid that cost, and I would say if you can do it, do it. But if you want to avoid that cost, definitely go to the homeschool room for consigned curriculums. There's a place called the Smart Start Research Center that's off of the SPCC campus in Monroe. They have a building where you can actually go in and get um, almost like your play material for things that you may need for homeschool. So say if they're learning addition and math, they can actually go in and find some type of learning blocks or something that could pair with the lesson that they're doing, so they can have that. If they're a kinesthetic learner, especially, they can have that visible, physical way of learning. So you can go to the Smart Start Resource Center. There's a place or a website called Wholesome Book Wholesale, where you can actually find almost same way as homeschool room, consign material but online at a wholesale price. So these right here are going to be a lot cheaper also than the homeschool room even. Only thing about this resource is that sometimes availability may be limited. It is not so pretty or to the visual eye, but they have and some of the books may be of an older edition, but they are paired with a new modeled, for example, teacher's manual. So they flow together. So that stuff, that curriculum you can buy on there. There's also another place called Teaching Resources and Lesson Plans by Teachers Pay Teachers. And on there are actually like free resources that you can print or use or videos that can help you with your child when it comes to their curriculum, their learning concepts. There's another website called education.com where it's the same thing as Teachers Pay Teachers, where they give you free resources and materials to use. There's Easy Peasy All in One. And this is a curriculum this year that I will be using because I have two sons now that are getting ready to start. They should be starting their life pack. Um, one of them is going into the first grade, one is going to the second grade. Last year, for my well at the time first grader and kindergartner, I actually did this approach where I did go through the North Carolina standards and I developed my own curriculum plan. That is very lengthy and intensive, teacher led. And so this year I am deciding to go ahead and get them started on curriculum. But what I realized is that when we begin Life Pack, each curriculum or package is technically like between $400 to $500. And if I multiply that by three, yeah, it gets very expensive real fast. So we're going to try this new curriculum called Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool. And this lady actually developed a curriculum that's free to use. And if you have to buy anything, it's very, very cheap to like dollars. Um, and you can actually teach your child, or it can actually teach. It's a student-led, teacher-led, some curriculum where they can just kind of do the information for themselves. And I love it. I am going to be starting that this year. And then there's also this curriculum called The Good and the Beautiful. They have free resource homeschool curriculums that you can try. And then there's also Khan Academy. Khan Academy has free online courses, lessons, practice worksheets on their website that you can access by grade. All of these three that I just mentioned, these curriculums are by grade and they are free. And then the last one that we used for the year prior is Life Pack. Life Pack, well, for the last 3 years, is 2 years, is Life Pack. Life Pack has their own homeschool curriculum. And that is again, it is student led with some teacher influence, if that makes sense. So you can buy that through christianbook.com. And again, it is a more expensive curriculum, but I just wanted you to have that resource there from christianbook.com versus going on the AOP Life Pack website because it is cheaper here on Christian Book. And then there's some Facebook groups where you can actually partner with, and I mean, not partner with, but be invited into those groups for curriculum swaps, or to get free curriculum off the marketplace, or for cheap or affordable. Definitely eBay. We have bought different workbooks and manuals off of eBay, and then definitely utilize your public library for free book or mastery book resources. And I always say to always opt for, if you can, real life experiences. If you're able to travel, then good. Our family is not always able to travel. It's a lot of us. But if you can take the field trip or go to just make a unique visit, learn from somebody who's actually working in the field that your child may be interested in, or going to an educational center. We go through the Discovery Place Museum, Imagine On. Those type of places are great educational centers to give your child those in-person experiences and they still learn. That counts as a homeschool day as well. I always remember though at the end of the day, I said a whole lot of information and I hope something that I said helped you in some way. Um, it's just I always remember at the end of the day to teach what matters most, and know what you are preparing your child for. If you have that or you know that, you are off to a great start and you are on a very more stronger firm foundation. I hope you have a awesome rest of your day. And if you have any questions, and I do mean any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a text. I'm not very good when it comes to phone calls, I admit. Um, but just send me a text, and I will be more than willing to try to be of service to you as much as possible. I hope you have a great day. Bye bye.